Shot of the night is correct. Class is back in session. I'm your host, Coach Dwayne, just a regular teacher with a sports mind. In case you did not know, that is the clip. You heard it from the Caleb Love Dagger 3. Dagger 3 that pretty much sealed the game for North Carolina against Duke in the Final Four. Great game. Final game of Coach K's career. Lots of hoopla about that and what was going on and things of that nature. But before we get into all of that, before we get into the Final Four preview, before we get into tonight's game, let's answer your questions. Why is there a teacher doing a sports podcast? Well, I just finished a unit on the 1920s. Finished unit Roaring 20s, the Flappers, Prohibition, all these things happened in the 1920s in U.S. history. And I asked them, I said, what are some questions you still have about the 1920s? And one of the questions I got was, did racism still exist after the 1920s? Which was absolutely heartbreaking. One of the questions I asked was, what was one of the negatives of the 1920s? And someone answered slavery. So not good, definitely all around not a good thing. So I thought I would try my hand at sports podcasting because maybe I would be doing better at that than apparently what I'm doing as a U.S. history teacher. But big game tonight, men's college basketball championship, the Roy Williams special, Kansas, North Carolina. Should be a good game. But before we get into that game, let's talk about the Final Four 2 nights ago. The first game, Kansas-Villanova, it's really just a shame what happened to Justin Moore. Villanova played this game a lot closer than I expected it to be. I expected it to be a overwhelming blowout by Kansas, especially with Justin Moore going out the way that he did. He wasn't going to play, second leading scorer for Villanova. Now, it had nothing to do with my belief in Colin Gillespie. In fact, I believe that Villanova definitely has the better head coach. I just felt that it was going to help Kansas defensively. They were going to be able to have a much easier time focusing their attention on Colin Gillespie, and they were going to be able to work to stop him and to shut him down. Now, crazy fun facts from that game. Colin Gillespie did not lead Villanova in scoring. In fact, it was Slater. Kansas did a very good job of kind of shutting down Gillespie. Gillespie goes 6 for 11 from the field, so he shoots a little over 50%. He was lights out from 3, 5 of 8, but overall, only 17 points. And you expect much more. You expect a lot more out of Colin Gillespie, and especially what ends up being his final game. But Kansas, at one point, had to sweat this out. Villanova had got it down to under 10 in the second half. And again, like I said, was a much closer game than I expected it to be. Didn't expect Villanova to be in it. I expected Kansas to be able to walk right into the national championship game, mainly because of the Justin Moore ruptured Achilles. And it's a shame. It's a shame. I feel like had Justin Moore played in this game, Villanova beats Kansas easily, and we're looking at a rematch in the championship game in the Chris Jennings special between Villanova and North Carolina in what could arguably be another revenge game. This time for Carolina, as opposed to what ended up being the revenge game, or what was supposed to be the revenge game for Duke in the second of the Final Four games. It's what all college basketball fans were cheering for. I saw a meme. Every Carolina and Duke fan that I talked to said it was very true. College basketball fans were cheering for Duke, North Carolina in the Final Four. The difference was that Carolina and Duke fans were not, because it was going to take 10 years off of their lives. And the way this game was played, the back and forth, the lead changes, I very much believe it. This is me as a Georgia Tech fan. I was probably leaning towards Carolina. My sister went to the University of North Carolina, graduated from the University of North Carolina. Big time Carolina Tar Heel fan. So I was leaning towards Carolina, but ultimately I was cheering for a good game. there's a lot. This grade segment is going to go all on the Duke, North Carolina basketball game. The A goes to second half Caleb Love. Me and my dad had talked, not on the podcast, obviously, just in a phone conversation. And he had mentioned to me that the key to Carolina winning this basketball game was going to be Caleb Love playing well and Caleb Love putting up stats and Caleb Love kind of taking over in a way that he did versus UCLA. And in the second half, Caleb Love did that. In the first half, Caleb Love played terribly. I mean, just beyond bad. Horrible. In the words of Charles Barkley, terrible. He was not good. But second half, Caleb Love was confident. He was going to the basket. He didn't care who was down there. And he hit, as you heard at the beginning, the dagger three, the shot of the night. Oh, Duke switched. He had Mark Williams on him. Bigger guy, longer guy. Didn't matter. Puts the shot up, confident enough in his ability to shoot that shot, unafraid. And it goes in, and you just kind of knew that when that shot went in, it was over. Roach gets the ball, comes right back down, puts it in, makes it a 2-point game, but Duke didn't have any timeouts. They were forced to foul. Caleb Love again goes to the free throw line, knocks him down. You knew it was over when Caleb Love hit that three. Now, when he went to take that shot as a person watching the game, I immediately thought it was a terrible shot. I thought it was absolutely horrible. Turns out it goes in, and I look like an idiot. So, great job by him. Caleb Love gets the A. My man, Elon, in the comments, what do you think Carolina's chances are tonight? Listen, to answer your question, I'm going to talk more about tonight's game kind of later on. But to answer your question, because you posed it, I have bet against Kansas in every round except the first round. I don't trust Bill Self. I don't think Bill Self is a good coach. I think, I've always said this and I felt this way, March Madness is very much about being hot at the right time. A hot team at the right time, and I think Carolina's hot. I think they play well together, but I think a lot of it is going to come down to how bad is that ankle, lower leg area of Armando Bacot. Can Bacot go out here and get you 20 more rebounds? Can he control the paint? You may not need him to score, but can he go up and get rebounds? Is he going to be able to jump off that ankle and off that leg? I think that makes a huge difference in this game. If Bacot is not able to go, you need Brady Manek, like regular season Brady Manek, not Brady Manek we saw against Duke. Brady Manek against Duke, he had some big shots, but he was not the Brady Manek that Carolina fans are used to seeing. He's not the Brady Manek that is going to have to show up tonight if Armando Bacot cannot play, or at least is not 100%. We know that Bacot's going to play. I was shocked that Bacot even went back to the locker room. I would have told the trainer, no, I'm not going back there. I'm good. I may not have even come off the floor. I had a problem with pretending that I wasn't hurt when I was growing up, and if I was in the Final Four, I'm definitely not coming off the floor. I like Carolina in this matchup. I'll talk more about that kind of later on in the episode. But to answer your questions, I think Carolina has a legitimate shot. I think Carolina has been underrated. I think calling Carolina a Cinderella is an insult to the brand that is North Carolina basketball. I thought they were underseeded as an 8. I understand that their only big win in the regular season was against Duke. But again, I think hot team at the right time. Now, them getting knocked out in the ACC tournament did not help that. But I thought they were a dangerous 8 seed. I really did. I didn't think they were a team that a lot of teams wanted to play. Now, the question for me about Carolina, that's going to go against Carolina, is Hubert Davis has a very, very short rotation. He doesn't play a lot of guys. And is that going to catch up to him? Especially, again, if Bacot's not 100%. If Bacot cannot go. Johnson is going to have to play. And we saw that Johnson came into the game when Bacot went off. He's not Armando Bacot. He hasn't played a lot, and now all of a sudden he may have to play significant, real, big-time minutes in probably the biggest game he's ever played in. And is he going to be able to step up to that? And if it's not Johnson, is Carolina going to go small? Does Carolina use one of those freshman guards that haven't played a lot? but they were big-time 5-star recruited freshmen that came to North Carolina. They haven't put in a lot of minutes, but you're a 5-star player for a reason. I think the key to tonight's game, my dad was right in the Final Four. He said it was going to be Caleb Love. I think the key to tonight's game, Brady Manek. I think Brady Manek has to have a big game because I do not believe that Armando Bacot is 100%, but I believe he's going to tough it out, and I believe he's going to play. I got off track. I got off topic, but it's hard not to. It's national championship night, so big time game. But my A went to Caleb Love in the second half. Now that Caleb Love is going to have to show up against Kansas. Now Kansas takes advantage of teams that turn the ball over. First half, Caleb Love turned the ball over quite a bit. Caleb Love that played against Duke at Chapel Hill turned the ball over a lot. When Caleb Love doesn't turn the ball over and Caleb Love is knocking down shots and he's taking good shots and he's being aggressive, he's not settling for contested three-point jumpers, that Caleb Love can make a difference. That Caleb Love has to show up. Second half, Caleb Love, A+. First half, Caleb Love, arguably could get an F. He could be at the very bottom of my list. The B, Armando Bacot. B stands for Bacot. The man put up another 20-rebound game. It's insane, this dude's ability to get boards. Now, I've talked about on this podcast how it's very frustrating to watch Armando Bacot play because you feel like he should arguably be more dominant than he is. Rebounding-wise, he's been extremely dominant. I just felt like he should always give you more than he does on the offensive end. Sometimes he settles for bad jump shots. Sometimes he doesn't make the right play. But in the tournament, he's getting you rebounds. In the Final Four against Duke, he was getting rebounds. Now, the thing that frustrated me about Armando Bacot, and again, it's another thing that if it could have gotten him an F. Armando Bacot gets a B, I could have very easily given him an F. Mark Williams played 5 minutes in the first half of that game. If you had told me that Mark Williams was going to play 5 minutes in the first half, I would have told you that Armando Bacot was going to have 20 points. And he didn't. He didn't take the game over when Williams got into foul trouble like I expected him to do. Especially when in the first half, Caleb Love's struggling to score the basketball. Brady Manek is struggling to score the basketball. I felt like Bacot was in a position to take the game over offensively, and he didn't. But rebounding-wise and just playing great defense, Armando Bacot did a lot. He stayed in the game. He looked like that ankle was bad off. Stays in the game, comes back, shows a lot of heart. 20 rebounds. I mean, you can't argue with 20 rebounds. 20 rebounds, you're going to win a lot of games doing that. You're going to win a lot of games getting 20 boards. Now, I think if it wasn't for Caleb Love's 28-point just kind of outburst, I think you're probably talking more about Armando Bacot's 20 boards. But Caleb Love put up more buckets. He put the ball in the basket, and he hit the shot that everyone is going to talk about when it comes to this game. The C for this game, the C goes to Banchero. Now listen, I understand that he's 6'10", and there's things he can do as a 6'10" forward that you feel like a lot of guys that are 6'10" can't do. To be 6'10", he shoots from outside pretty well. He can dribble the basketball. He can play point forward. But again, Banchero, much like Armando Bacot, did not take over the game in the way that I felt like he should. I didn't feel like he was aggressive. I felt like he was timid. I felt like he passed the ball in big situations. Whereas he needed to be what Caleb Love was on that final possession. Give me the rock, put the team on my back, I got this. And Banchero is not that. Additionally, I think that a team that's drafting in the lottery of the NBA is going to, a GM is going to tie himself to Banchero, and you're looking at a taller version of Marvin Bagley Jr. Except Banchero cannot go left. Every time he dribbles the ball to the left side, every time, I mean, he turns it over, and he turns it over, and he turns it over. So he can't go left. He's had several issues dribbling to the left side. He needs to get better at going left. He needs to get stronger at going to his left side. Teams are going to take that right side away, especially in the NBA. He's definitely not going to be able to go to the left side or to the right side as often. And I think, like I said, I think it's going to cost a GM his job potentially. You're going to look at this as the same way as the Kings drafted Marvin Bagley Jr. And they could have had, they drafted Bagley instead of Doncic or instead of Trae Young. And I think Banchero is that. I think there are things about Banchero that should intrigue NBA teams. However, I think there are glaring weaknesses. I don't think he's that athletic to be 6'10". There are several times that I felt like he should have went up. He should have dunked the basketball, especially in the Final Four game, and he did not do that. When Bacot was hurt and injured, he should have demanded the basketball. They still had Bacot guarding Banchero. There should have been a clear out, an ISO with Banchero on the block against an injured Armando Bacot. Banchero should have been able to use his speed and his athleticism against Bacot, and he was not able to do that. Now, this is not to take away from what Banchero did. Banchero was the leading scorer for Duke. He did a lot of things right. He played well statistically. That's the reason he gets a C. At the end of the game, he folded. He had opportunities to take the shot. He had opportunities to demand the ball on the block, and he didn't do it when he should have. And that's the reason I give Paolo Banchero a C. Because I felt like he should have given you more. He should have brought about much more. Should have brought more to the game than what he did. He did not play well in the second half. Just in general, did not do kind of what you expect from a player of that magnitude in that situation, with the limelight on him, with the spotlight on him. D grade goes to Mark Williams. D grade goes to Mark Williams. I had, again, in a conversation offline, had mentioned that the key to this game, I had felt like the key to the game for North Carolina was Bacot. I felt like the key to the game for Duke was Williams. Mark Williams, you cannot get in foul trouble that early in the basketball game. When Williams was on the floor in them first 5 minutes, he looked like the most dominant player on the floor. He was rebounding. He was faster. He was athletic as all get out for 7'1". It didn't look like Carolina had an answer for him. And then he gets into foul trouble. He picks up 2 quick fouls. 5 minutes. Very, very quick fouls. Now, this is where I would like to give Theo John Theo John picks up 4 fouls in the first half, but he managed to give Coach K the rest of the first half without having to risk putting Mark Williams back out there to pick up a cheap or a quick third foul. But I give Mark Williams a D. When he was on the floor, he was probably the most dominant player on the floor, athletically and contribution-wise. But the best ability is availability. And when you pick up fouls that quickly and at that rate, you're not available to your team. You're not available to your team. And you have to be available in the moment in a game like this. You have to be available and able to help your squad. You have to be there to play the great defense that you provide to that Duke basketball team. You have to be there to be the rebounder so that Bacot's not collecting 20 boards in the game. You have to be there for the putbacks. You have to be there for the lobs. You have to be there. And he just wasn't. He wasn't available. And I give him a D because of that. I think that needs to be held. Now, it doesn't take away from his tournament. We're talking specifically Final Four basketball. And D stands for dominant when he was available. D stands for almost failing because he wasn't for a very, very large chunk of the game. In probably the biggest game of his career. The F goes to the Duke basketball players. Now, I know this is going to sound flip-floppy because I've often said I don't understand why they shake hands at the end of the game. I don't understand what the point or the purpose of doing that is, especially after hard-fought games when emotions are high. You're asking for something bad to happen. But when it is the Final Four, I think you should go and you should congratulate the other team. Coach K, his final game, the end of his career against an arch rival that he had previously lost to in his final home game, went through there and he shaked every player and every coach's hand on the North Carolina sideline. If there was anybody who could have just walked off the floor, it could have been Coach K. And it would have been understandable. Last game, emotions are high, it's your rival. You're choked up because it's real now. Your career is ended. But I don't like that the Duke basketball players did not respect what Hubert Davis had done. Even if it's not the players, you don't want to shake the other team's players' hands because they're celebrating and they're happy and they're excited as they should be. Respect the coaches of the other team enough to shake their hands before you walk to the locker room. Respect Hubert Davis enough to acknowledge that he's a first-year head coach. He's an African-American head coach in the Deep South, playing in an institution that a lot of fans in that fan base did not want him to be the next head coach. And he takes his team to the national championship game in his first season. Have enough respect for him and what that coaching staff has done to at least shake his and the rest of the coaching staff's hand. The game was over and the Duke players immediately walked off the floor. They left, and the second part, they left their coach hanging. They left Coach K out there by himself to shake every other player's hand on the Carolina sideline. Now, Wendell Moore stayed right behind Coach K and he shook hands. But every other Duke basketball player walked back to the locker room immediately. I understand being upset. I understand that the emotions are high. I understand that it's real, that your season is now over. But respect the moment, respect the coach, respect the history of it enough to shake that coach's hand. Respect your coach enough to not leave him on an island by himself out there on the court alone. So the F goes to the Duke basketball players who just walked off the floor. Again, I understand you just went to war and you went to battle with the players from North Carolina. But at least shake the North Carolina coach's hands before you walk off the floor. I felt like Hubert Davis was looking for those players to congratulate them. You took away Hubert Davis' opportunity to congratulate you and to tell you how great you are and how well you played. And Hubert Davis, you took the opportunity for him to show you that respect because you didn't show him the respect he deserved. So the F goes to the Duke basketball players. Respect the moment, respect the history, respect the coach. I understand not wanting to shake hands with the Carolina basketball players. You literally just went to war against them. They're celebrating. It's their moment. But there's nothing that says you can't shake those other coaches' hands before you go back into the locker room. Now, as for it's the end of an era for for college basketball. Coach K is gone. 5 decades. He had a 76% win percentage. Took over an absolutely dormant program. Was almost let go 3 to 4 years into his run at Duke. They stayed with him. They stuck with him. And he ends up going 101-30 in NCAA tournaments. He has 1,202 total wins, a 77 win percentage, 65-22 in the ACC tournament, 5 tournament championships, 13 Final Fours, 15 ACC tournament championships, 13 regular season championships, and the thing that, not to mention 3 gold medals as coach of the Olympic team. But the thing that I give Coach K the most credit for is his adaptability. When Coach K took over at Duke, one and done was not a thing. For the most part, your freshmen and your sophomores didn't really play. He led junior and senior strong teams to championships. And when one and done became a thing, he adapted to the one and done. Now, he was a little late to that party, but he eventually adapted to that style, and he changed what he was used to doing and what he wanted to do to fit the one and done mold. I believe he has 46 first round picks. Not a lot of them panned out. It's kind of like the USC quarterback. Not a lot of them panned out. But to have that many just first round draft picks says a lot about your ability to coach up talent and develop talent. I personally don't think that Jon Scheyer is the right guy to take over this Duke program after Coach K left. I felt like Amaker was the guy that should have went to. Now I understand why Amaker didn't want to come in and go from being a head coach to being Coach K's assistant, but I felt like that was the right move. I don't know who the next head coach is. Is it, I guess the next great head coach after Coach K is maybe Izzo, maybe Jay Wright. I just think it's an era. I mean, 5 decades. 5 decades. I think he's the greatest men's basketball coach of all time. I know people would argue John Wooden. There wasn't as much parity in college basketball as there was when John Wooden played. And I give Coach K a lot of credit for just sticking around at Duke. He developed a dynasty. He developed a brand. Duke is across the nation recognized. And Durham, North Carolina is not a big place. But he made it big. Cameron Indoor, not a big stadium, is arguably has the greatest home court advantage in college basketball. He built that. I don't know who the other coach is that is going to come close to that in the men's game. Now, while at Duke, he had lots of chances to go to the NBA. He turned them down. After the 1990 season, the Celtics offered him a job. He turned it down. After he does that, he wins back-to-back national championships at Duke. 1994, the Trailblazers reached out to him. He turned that down. 2004, after Phil Jackson had left the Lakers, Mitch Kupchak reached out to Coach K. Offered him 5 years, $40 million, and partial ownership of the LA Lakers, and yet he turned that down because he loved Durham and he loved Duke basketball, which he had mentioned in his speech after the last game at Cameron. I mean, even in 2010, the New Jersey Nets offered him somewhere between 12 and 15 million to come coach the Nets. He didn't. He turned it down to stay at Duke. He was offered the coaching position with the Timberwolves in 2011, turned it down to stay at Duke. I think another thing that should be talked about are the assistant coach, the coaching tree. He bought in to developing not just his players, but developing his assistant coaches so they could go on to be either NCAA or NBA head coaches. You're looking at Pete Godot, who coached at Army, Chuck Swinson at William & Mary, Bob Bender at Illinois State and at Washington, Mike Bray, Delaware, currently the coach at Notre Dame, Tommy Amaker, current coach at Harvard, who I thought, again, should have been the next coach to coach at Duke, Tim O'Toole, Quinn Snyder, current coach of the Utah Jazz, David Henderson, Jeff Capel, current coach of Pitt, Johnny Dawkins, current coach at UCF, Chris Collins, coaching at Northwestern, Bobby Hurley, Steve Wojciechowski, Nate James, all currently coaching. He put players into the NBA and he put assistant coaches in the opportunity to succeed. You can now add John Shire to that list as he will succeed Coach K. Just what he built and his willingness to stay the course and to remain there. 5 decades, had opportunities to leave and go to the next level, and he didn't do it. He talked about loving the city and loving the university. And I feel like the brotherhood is real. You saw it in his final home game when all these guys came back. And I think it's an end of an era. I don't think we're ever going to see another coach stay for 5 decades at the same institution. I just don't believe you're going to see it again. Jay Wright, maybe. But Jay Wright flirted with going to the NBA. Izzo's not going to be around long enough. Maybe Mark Few. But he's not going to have the impact that Coach K had. I don't know who the next guy is. Who takes the torch? Who is Coach K passing the baton to? I don't know, but it will be interesting to see. I briefly talked about it earlier. I got asked the question, Carolina's chances tonight. I'm taking North Carolina. I think they're the better team. That does not to say that I don't think Kansas has better individual players. I think Kansas' style of play could cause problems for North Carolina. They're physical, they're disciplined, they don't turn the ball over. But I think Carolina is hot at the right time. And again, you're waiting for Bill Self to outcoach himself. It's happened several times before. You're waiting on it to happen again. You're waiting for the next time that he steps on his own toes and gets in his own way. I think Caleb Love and R.J. Davis continue having dominant tournaments. I think Bacot just being out there is going to at least force Kansas to commit maybe a little bit harder to defensive rebounding, which will affect their ability to get out in transition. I think Duke actually matched up with North Carolina better than Kansas will. I think Carolina is going to try and play fast. I think they look to get Brady Manek an easy basket early so that Manek can just see the ball go in. The thing that I liked about Duke, and like I said, their abilities to match up, where they had a big that they could put on Bacot, and they had another big in Banchero that they could put some length that they could put on Manek to try and cause him some trouble in the shooting department. Kansas, I'm not sure they're going to be able to throw that same combination of length and athleticism at Brady Manek. I think he ends up having a pretty big day. Again, I think Caleb Love has to not turn the ball over. I think Carolina has to look to play fast. And they got to stay out of foul trouble. They definitely have to stay out of foul trouble if Bacot's not 100%, which he's not. If he is a shell of himself, Carolina cannot afford to get into foul trouble and force their rotation to be even deeper than it's already going to be in comparison to what they've done all season. So I look for it to be a great game. I haven't checked the spread recently. I'm sure it's been moving throughout the day. I'm going to look and see what the spread is right now. The spread is Kansas minus 4.5 The over is 152. I think that the over is definitely going to hit. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I think you're looking at a 80 to 85 type of game. Offense on both sides. But I would take, if you're going to give me Carolina and I would take Carolina flat out. I would definitely take Carolina with 4.5 points. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I think, again, Villanova giving Kansas problems without their second best player kind of gave a blueprint. I think Villanova eventually just ran out of gas. They got down early. Just spent a lot of energy coming back. I don't think Carolina's going to get into that deep of a hole. I don't think they're going to be down that big early. I think you're going to see them come out firing. I think you're going to see them come out looking to do a job and looking to do that job well. I'm taking Carolina straight up. I would definitely take Carolina with 4.5 points if you're willing to give it to me. Give me 85 to 81 North Carolina. 85-81 in a North Carolina victory in Hubert Davis's first season at the helm. And while I'm on the topic, let me give a shout out. I feel bad. I probably should have gave it more time. Shout out to the South Carolina women's basketball team and Dawn Staley, who just absolutely dominated in their game against UConn yesterday, including just an absolute annihilation in the first quarter of 22-8 in the first quarter. I've never seen a UConn women's team get beat up like that and just get absolutely jumped on. But Dawn Staley's doing a great job down there. Those girls came out firing. They came out ready to play. And Aaliyah Boston looked every bit the part. 17 points per game, 16 rebounds, shot 53%, and she had a great tournament. So shout out to the women's game and South Carolina in general, or specifically, not in general, South Carolina specifically for winning the chip. Again, looking at the men's game tonight, I'm taking North Carolina. I do believe that Bacot is going to he's going to give them just enough. Breaking down, they're evenly matched. They both average 78.6 points per game, which is why I said I believe that this game is going to be high scoring. It's going to be high scoring. They average not much on the defensive end. They both average around 4 blocks. Carolina at 3.9. Kansas at 4.1. They're averaging 5 for steals, 6 steals for Kansas. Rebounds per game, again, 36.9 for North Carolina, 35.1 for Kansas. But what does that rebounding number look like for North Carolina if Bacot can't go as strong, can't be as strong and as powerful and to give you as much juice jumping and being athletic on that foot? I think adrenaline's going to kick in at some point for Bacot. I think he's going to have a big game. Again, Carolina 85, Kansas 81. Go ahead and book it. It's a Coach Dwayne special for you guys. Look, it's a special edition. Wanted to preview this national championship game, get it out there to y'all. So shout out to my sponsors, Effortless Entertainment. They got the mic that fixed my audio issues right there at the beginning. Takar Realties. They have a condo in Sunset Beach and a condo in Myrtle Beach. If you're over here on the East Coast and you're looking for a place to stay, to go on vacation, look for them on Airbnb or VRBO. Mention Sports School to get a discount depending on the time of year. Shout out to the Marlon vs. Marlon podcast. They're the reason I do what I do. They had me on. I had a blast. They're my mentors. They're the guys I reach out to if I got any questions. If you guys are looking to get on the show, if you got questions, if you want to interact with me, follow me on Twitter. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Sports School Pod. Reach out to them. I'm now on YouTube. Go watch the videos. Like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube right now. Like, subscribe, comment. Hey, tell me my bald head looks stupid. Tell me I look like Alex Caruso. Call me Mr. Clean. Whatever. Leave the comments you want. Haters are going to hate. I embrace the haters. If you disagree with me, you think my predictions are stupid. If Carolina gets absolutely blown out and you want to just tell me, ha, look at how dumb you are, please put them in there. Put it in the comments. Tell me you want to come on the show. You can tell me how dumb I am on the show. We can comment, converse, debate about it. But seriously, thanks for all the listeners out there. You guys are the reason I continue to do this podcast. It's a lot of fun. That's all I got. Enjoy the game tonight. I know I'm going to. Peace.